Aboard the colossal vessel Menageries Pride, Captain Xylof Vreen paced the bridge, his 6 elongated limbs twitching with anticipation. The ship's metallic hull gleamed under the light of an unfamiliar star system, its vast collection bays ready to receive new specimens. "Status report, First Officer Krill," Xylof demanded, his compound eyes fixed on the view screen. Krill, a gelatinous being encased in an exosuit, burbled a response. "We've entered the system designated Sol, Captain. Third planet from the star shows significant biological diversity." "It's a gold mine." Xylof's mandibles clicked excitedly. The Zookeepers Guild would be pleased. Their last 3 expeditions had been disappointingly dull, planets full of mundane creatures that hardly raised an antenna at the galactic menagerie. "What's the most dangerous apex predator on this?" "What did you call it?" Xylof inquired. "Earth, sir. And our initial scans are confusing. There seems to be a sapient species present, but they're not registering as the most lethal organisms." Xylof waved a dismissive limb. "Sapients are of no interest to us. We're here for the beasts, the monsters, the creatures that make even the bravest zookeeper quake in their exoskeletons." "Understood, sir. I've isolated a large island continent in the planet's southern hemisphere. The concentration of deadly fauna there is off the charts." The captain's exoskeleton vibrated with excitement. "Excellent. Prepare the capture teams. I want our holds full of Earth's most vicious predators within 1 planetary rotation." As the crew scurried to obey, Xylof allowed himself a moment of smug satisfaction. Soon, the galactic menagerie would boast the finest collection of Earth's deadliest creatures. How hard could it be to subdue a few primitive beasts? Little did Xylof know, but the continent of Australia was about to teach him and his crew a lesson they'd never forget. "Sir," Krill's voice wavered, "I'm picking up some strange readings from the surface. These creatures, they're like nothing we've ever encountered." Xylof's antenna twitched dismissively. "Nonsense. We've captured beasts from 1,000 worlds. What could possibly dash?" The ship suddenly rocked, alarms blaring throughout the bridge. "What in the name of the cosmic zookeeper was that?" Xylof screeched. Krill's gelatinous form quivered inside his exosuit. Something just punched through our shields and hull, sir. It's a bird." On the view screen, a massive, emu-like creature with metallic feathers and a razor-sharp beak screeched triumphantly as it tore through the ship's outer defenses. Xylof's mandibles dropped in shock. "Impossible. How can a mere avian dash?" "Sir, we've got more incoming." Krill interrupted, panic evident in his bubbling voice. "Marsupials with explosive pouches, reptiles spitting acid, and, oh, cosmic zookeeper, is that a spider piloting a mech suit?" As chaos erupted on the bridge, Captain Xylof Vreen realized with dawning horror that his hubris had led them into a trap. The deadliest creatures on Earth weren't just animals. They were the result of millions of years of evolution on a continent that seemed designed to create monsters. And now, those monsters were coming for them. "All hands, battle stations," Xylof screamed, his earlier bravado evaporating like morning dew under the harsh Australian sun. "Repel boarders, activate all defenses, and someone get me a direct line to the Zookeepers Guild. We're gonna need backup." As the menagerie's pride shuddered under the assault of Australia's most formidable wildlife, Xylof couldn't help but wonder, had they finally bitten off more than they could chew? Croc McSweeney wiped the sweat from his brow, squinting at the scorching outback sun. 30 years as a wildlife ranger had taught him to expect the unexpected, but nothing could have prepared him for the sight before him. "Crikey," he muttered, lowering his binoculars. "Oi, Bluey, you seeing this, mate?" Bluey, his faithful blue healer, let out a low whine. The dog's ears were pinned back, eyes fixed on the horizon where a massive, otherworldly ship hovered above the red earth. "Yeah, I reckon it's not from round here either," Dotzer agreed, reaching for his radio. But before he could call it in, a deafening screech split the air. A flock of gala cockatoos erupted from a nearby eucalyptus grove, their pink and gray feathers a blur as they swarmed towards the alien vessel. Datsa's jaw dropped as he watched the birds' beaks slice through the ship's hull like it was made of paper. Struth, since when could Galas do that? As if in answer, a massive red kangaroo bounded past, its normally docile eyes glowing with an eerie intelligence. In its pouch, instead of a joey, Datsa glimpsed what looked like a rocket launcher. "Bluey, I think we might be in for a bit of a Barney here," Datsa muttered, slowly backing away. But it was too late. The alien ship, under assault from the supercharged Aussie wildlife, was losing altitude fast. With a thunderous crash, it hit the ground less than a kilometer away. The impact sent a shockwave across the landscape, kicking up a cloud of red dust that blotted out the sun. As the dust began to settle, Datsa heard something that made his blood run cold. The hiss of hydraulics as the ship's entry ramp lowered. "Oh, for the love of..." Datsa grumbled, reaching for the satellite phone he reserved for absolute emergencies. "Bluey, I reckon it's time to call in the cavalry." But before he could dial, a figure emerged from the ship. Tall, insectoid, and clearly not of this world, it stumbled down the ramp, 6 limbs flailing in panic. "Help!" the alien screeched in surprisingly good English. "Your planet is insane. The animals, they're everywhere." As if on cue, a chorus of growls, screeches, and bellows erupted from the surrounding bush. Datsa watched in awe as creatures he'd known his whole life emerged, each somehow enhanced. Koalas with metallic claws, wombats with armored hides, and was that a platypus wielding nunchucks? The alien, who Datsa would later learn was named Xyloff, scrambled towards him in terror. "Please, you must help us. We only wanted specimens for our zoo, but your wildlife, it's unstoppable." Datsa sighed, looking from the panicked alien to the army of supercharged Aussie animals assembling before them. He'd sworn an oath to protect all wildlife, even the extraterrestrial kind, it seemed. Right then, he said, squaring his shoulders. "First rule of the Outback, mate. Everything here can and will try to kill you. Now let's see if we can't sort this mess out before the emus decide to declare war again." As Datsa stepped forward to face the bizarre standoff between alien invaders and weaponized marsupials, he couldn't help but grin. It was going to be a long day, but by crikey, it'd make one hell of a story at the pub later. "All right, you lot," he called out to the assembled creatures. "Let's all calm down and have a chat. And someone get that kangaroo a bigger rocket launcher. If we're facing an alien invasion, we might as well do it properly." The Outback sun beat down mercilessly as Datsa McSweeney found himself in the most unlikely peace talks of his life. On one side, a group of terrified alien zookeepers led by the jittery Captain Xyloff. On the other, an assemblage of Australia's wildlife that looked like it had stumbled out of a mad scientist's fever dream. "All right, you galas," Datsa addressed the gathered crowd, his voice carrying across the red earth. "Let's sort this out before things get any bloodier." A massive red kangaroo hopped forward, its eyes glowing an unnatural green. To everyone's shock, it spoke, its voice a gravelly rumble. "These cosmic drongos tried to cage us, mate. We ain't having it." Xyloff's mandibles clacked nervously. We didn't know? Your species weren't supposed to be sentient, let alone armed." A koala, its claws now razor-sharp adamantium, drawled lazily from a nearby eucalyptus. "Mate, you try surviving in a country where everything's trying to kill you. You either adapt or you're stuffed." Datsa nodded sagely. "Too right. Now, Captain, what's your face? Why don't you explain what the bloody hell you're doing here?" As Xyloff stuttered through an explanation about the galactic menagerie, Datsa noticed movement in his peripheral vision. A platypus, still wielding its nunchucks, was sneaking towards the alien ship. "Oi, Platy!" Datsa called out. "What are you up to?" The platypus froze, then shrugged its shoulders in a surprisingly human gesture. "Thought I'd nick their tech, mate. Reckon we could use a few space guns, yeah?" Before anyone could respond, a deafening roar shook the earth. From behind a red rock outcropping, a saltwater crocodile emerged. But this was no ordinary croc. Standing over 30 feet tall, with cybernetic enhancements glinting in the sun, It was a sight that made even the battle-hardened animals step back. "Bloody hell!" Dotso exclaimed. "Is that Brutus?" The cyborg croc nodded its massive head. "Day, Dotsa. Looks like we got ourselves a bit of a situation here." Captain Xyloph's compound eyes widened in terror. That thing is with you?" The kangaroo chuckled darkly. "Mate, Brutus here is our secret weapon. Been keeping him under wraps for a special occasion." As if to demonstrate, Brutus opened his maw, revealing a plasma cannon where his tongue should have been. "These galactic galas wanted Earth's deadliest creatures," he growled. "Well, they found him." Dotsa, realizing things were about to go from bad to catastrophic, stepped between the two groups. "Now hold on, you lot. We're all acting like a mob of galas. Can't we find a way to sort this out that doesn't end with half the outback turned to glass?" A tense silence fell over the gathering. The supercharged Aussie animals eyed the aliens warily, while Xylof and his crew looked ready to bolt at the slightest provocation. Suddenly, a small voice piped up. "Boy, why don't we show him instead of fight him?" All eyes turned to see a tiny sugar glider, its fur shimmering with what looked like adaptive camouflage tech. "Come again, little mate?" Dotsa asked, intrigued. The sugar glider floated down, landing on Brutus's snout. "Well, these space blokes wanted to see Earth's deadliest, right? Why don't we give him the tour of a lifetime? Show him why you don't mess with Aussie wildlife." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Even Xyloph's antennae perked up with interest. Dotsa grinned, seeing a way out of this mess. "Now that's using your noggin. What do you say, Captain? Fancy a walkabout in the deadliest continent on Earth?" Xylof glanced at his terrified crew, then back at the assembly of enhanced Australian fauna. Realizing they were thoroughly outmatched, he nodded reluctantly. "Very well, but I must insist on safety protocols." The kangaroo let out a booming laugh. "Safety? Mate, you're in Australia now. The only protocol we've got is survive." As the unlikely group prepared for their outback adventure, Dotsa couldn't help but chuckle. He'd seen some crazy things in his years as a ranger, but this took the bloody cake. "Right then," he announced, grabbing his hat and gesturing towards the harsh landscape. "Let's show these cosmic tourists why Earth, and especially Australia, is the most thrilling exhibit in the whole bloody universe." With Brutus the cyborg croc taking point and the alien zookeepers huddled nervously in the middle, the strangest tour group in Earth's history set off into the outback. The fate of interplanetary relations, and possibly the entire galaxy, now rested on a walkabout through the world's most dangerous wilderness. Dotsa grinned to himself. One thing was for certain, it was going to be a ripper of a story. As the scorching sun dipped towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the outback, Dotsa McSweeney found himself leading the most bizarre tour group in the history of the planet. Alien zookeepers, led by the increasingly frazzled Captain Xylof, huddled together as they navigated the treacherous landscape, surrounded by Australia's newly enhanced wildlife. "And on your left," Dotsa announced with a grin, "you'll see a charming little creature we call the box jellyfish. Normally, they're confined to the water, but our little mates have developed some upgrades." As if on cue, a shimmering, translucent form floated past, its tentacles crackling with what looked like electricity. Xylof's antennae twitched nervously. How is it surviving on land?" he squeaked. The jellyfish paused, turning what passed for its face towards the alien. "Evolution, mate," it buzzed in a voice like static electricity. "You either adapt or you're shark bait." Brutus, the massive cyborg crocodile, let out a rumbling laugh that shook the earth. "Speaking of sharks," he growled, "wait till they see what old Bruce has been up to." Dotsa raised an eyebrow. "Bruce? You mean the great white from Port Lincoln? What's he doing in the outback?" Before anyone could answer, the ground trembled. From behind a distant sand dune, a massive fin emerged, slicing through the red earth as if it were water. "Strith!" Dotsa exclaimed. "Is that GDAY, mates?" A booming voice echoed across the landscape as a colossal great white shark, now equipped with terrestrial locomotion and what looked suspiciously like laser cannons, crested the dune. "Heard we had some galactic visitors." Thought I'd drop by and say hello. Captain Zylof's compound eyes bulged in terror. This is madness. How can your planet's fauna have advanced so rapidly? The kangaroo with the rocket launcher hopped closer, its eyes glowing eerily. Listen here, you cosmic drongo. When you've spent millions of years on a continent trying to kill you learn a thing or two about survival. Alien invasion? Just another Tuesday for us. As Bruce the land shark approached, Dotsa couldn't help but notice the alien zookeepers huddling closer together. Their earlier bravado completely evaporated. Now, Dotsa said, trying to maintain some semblance of control. Let's not get carried away. We're all friends here, right? Just having a nice, educational walkabout. Suddenly, a high-pitched screech split the air. From above, a flock of magpies descended, their beaks gleaming like polished steel and eyes glowing red. Swooping season, one of the magpies cackled maniacally. Oh, bugger, Dotsa muttered. Everyone hit the deck. Chaos erupted as the magpies dive-bombed the group. Alien zookeepers scrambled for cover, their 6 limbs flailing in panic. Bruce the land shark opened his maw, unleashing a barrage of laser fire at the attacking birds, while Brutus the cyborg croc swung his massive tail, creating a protective perimeter. In the midst of the mayhem, Captain Zyloff made a break for it, scuttling across the red earth towards his damaged ship. "Oh, aye," the rocket launcher-wielding kangaroo shouted. "The Gala's doing a runner." Dotsa sighed, watching as the alien captain fled. Part of him wanted to give chase, to try and salvage this interstellar cultural exchange gone wrong. But another part, the part that had spent decades surviving in the world's most dangerous ecosystem, knew better. "Let him go," Dotsa said, ducking as a magpie swooped overhead. "Reckon he's learned his lesson about messing with Aussie wildlife." As the alien ship's engines sputtered to life, struggling to lift off, Dotsa couldn't help but chuckle. The vessel limped into the darkening sky, trailing smoke and sparks, a testament to the indomitable spirit of Earth's deadliest continent. "Well," Dotsa announced to the assembled menagerie of enhanced Australian fauna, "looks like the galactic zoo will have to do without us. Who's up for a cold one at the pub?" A chorus of cheers, roars, and screeches answered him. As the unlikely group made their way across the outback, Brutus the cyborg croc carrying a cooler of ice-cold beers in his massive jaws, Dotsa couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They might not have made it into the galactic menagerie, but they'd sure as hell made an impression. And if any other cosmic tourist got ideas about turning Earth into an exhibit, well, Australia would be ready. To survival, Dotsa toasted, cracking open a tinny and raising it to the star-filled sky. And to the wildest bloody continent in the universe, as the enhanced Aussie animals joined in the celebration. Their various appendages, claws, and tentacles raised in a toast, Dotsa knew one thing for certain. The legend of Earth's deadliest creatures would spread across the galaxy. And at the heart of that legend would be the unbreakable spirit of the Australian outback. As the first rays of dawn painted the outback sky in hues of orange and pink, Dotsa McSweeney found himself nursing a hangover and surveying the aftermath of last night's interstellar showdown. Scattered across the red earth were empty tinnies, discarded rocket launchers, and the occasional piece of alien technology. "Crikey," he muttered, rubbing his temples. That was one for the books. Beside him, Brutus the cyborg croc let out a rumbling groan. "Me head feels like a mob of roos had a party in it," the massive reptile grumbled. Dotsa chuckled, patting the croc's armored hide. "Welcome to the morning after, mate. Now, let's see about cleaning up this mess before dash." His words were cut short by a deafening roar from above. Looking up, Dotsa's jaw dropped as he saw not one, but a fleet of alien ships descending from the clouds. "Ah, Struth!" The kangaroo with the rocket launcher hopped up, its eyes still bleary from the night's festivities. Round 2 already? But as the ships landed, their design was noticeably different from Captain Zyloff's vessel. The doors hissed open, and out stepped a delegation of beings that looked like a galactic UN assembly. A tall, regal-looking alien with shimmering scales stepped forward. "Greetings, Terrans. I am High Counselor ZYX of the Galactic Federation. We come in response to disturbing reports." Dotsa straightened up, trying to look as dignified as possible while nursing a killer hangover. Your Highness. Dotsa McSweeney, Wildlife Ranger. What seems to be the trouble? ZYX's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. We received a rather hysterical transmission from a Captain Zyloff. He claimed this planet harbored creatures of unimaginable power and ferocity. Naturally, we came to investigate. A chorus of snickers and chuckles rippled through the assembled Aussie animals. Bruce the land shark grinned, his rows of teeth glinting in the morning sun. Sounds like old mate Zyloff couldn't handle a proper Aussie welcome. The High Counselor's antennae twitched in confusion. You mean the reports were true? You truly possess such formidable defenses. Dotsa exchanged glances with the enhanced wildlife around him. In the cold light of day, their upgrade seemed even more outlandish. The platypus was absent-mindedly twirling its nunchucks, while a group of emus appeared to be plotting world domination in the background. Well, Dotsa began, choosing his words carefully. Let's just say we don't take kindly to uninvited guests trying to turn us into zoo exhibits. ZYX's eyes widened. Zoo exhibits? Is that what Zyloff was attempting? This is a grave violation of galactic law. The assembled aliens murmured in agreement, many looking appalled at the idea. Seizing the moment, Dotsa stepped forward. Listen, your High Councilness. We're not looking for trouble. We're just a bunch of Aussies trying to survive on a continent that's been trying to kill us since day one. If Zyloff and his mates had just asked, we might have been open to a cultural exchange. The kangaroo hopped up beside Dotsa, its rocket launcher slung casually over one shoulder. Yeah, mate? We may be tough, but we're not unreasonable. High Counselor ZYX seemed to ponder this for a moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, the alien let out a sound that might have been laughter. Terrans, ZYX announced, addressing the motley crew of enhanced Australian fauna. I believe we may have severely underestimated your species. Instead of specimens for a zoo, I propose a new arrangement. How would you like to join the Galactic Federation as equals? A stunned silence fell over the group. Dotsa blinked, wondering if he was still drunk. Come again, mate? ZYX's scales shimmered with excitement. Any species capable of not only surviving, but thriving in such conditions, and with such ingenuity, would be a valuable addition to our alliance. Plus, the alien added with what might have been a wink, I have a feeling the rest of the galaxy could learn a thing or two about resilience from you Australians. As the implications sank in, a cheer erupted from the assembled creatures. Brutus the cyborg croc bellowed in triumph, while the koalas high-fived with their adamantium claws. Dotsa, still somewhat in shock, extended a hand to the alien diplomat. Well, High Counselor, on behalf of Australia and Earth, I suppose, we'd be honored. But fair warning, our diplomatic meetings might be a bit more lively than you're used to. ZYX took Dotsa's hand, shaking it enthusiastically. I wouldn't have it any other way, Mr. McSweeney. Now, perhaps you could show us this pub we've heard so much about? I believe it's customary to seal such agreements over something called a kaldai. As the unlikely group made their way towards the nearest outback pub, Dotsa couldn't help but grin. They'd gone from fighting off alien zookeepers to joining a galactic alliance, all in the span of a day. It was madness, but then again, that was just another Tuesday in Australia. All right, you lot, Dotsa called out to the mixed crowd of aliens and enhanced Aussie wildlife. First round's on me. Let's show these cosmic diplomats how we celebrate down under. And as the sun rose higher over the outback, casting its harsh light on this new chapter in Earth's history, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same. For better or worse, Australia's indomitable spirit was about to go intergalactic. In the distance, a group of emus watched the proceedings with calculating eyes. Soon, one muttered to its compatriots, "The time of the great emu empire draws near. First Australia, then the galaxy. But that, as they say, is a story for another day."